pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream.
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I am fantastic. As my father would say, I'm finer than frog's hair. So let's see. Let's go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you here tonight.
Oh, is this where I talk about myself?
It is.
Oh, okay. I'm really bad at doing that. Well, as you know, or as you can see on the screen, you can find me over at the main channel at Farmer Klein at youtube.com, right? And then I've got a secondary channel that we started up, back when YouTube was being a little particular with its metrics on games that aren't farming related. So it's FK's Funhouse, FKS underscore Funhouse, because don't go to FK Funhouse because that's something else. And I wouldn't want you to go where you don't want to be. But those are my two channels. Of course, we got a Discord. I've got links to that, I think, in the channel description. If not, you can always just ask. And we get that posted up there too. But yeah, I just kind of hang out, Discord, and those channels.
Awesome, awesome. Do you want to give any shout outs before we get started?
Well, I mean, we obviously got Schultz here. Schultz and Jacer, those are my two wisecracking guys over on the Discord and regulars watching the channel. And well, they both hang out with me after hours on the weekends at the secondary channel doing things like Roadcraft or Wreckfest or sometimes Truck Sim, and other random games that we play over there.
Awesome. And thanks to everybody coming out here tonight. I see that we got Maria, Ken, we got Schultz, thank you, and Jacer. Thank you all so much for stopping by and hanging out with us here tonight. Now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are within the Farm Sim community?
Well, I am maybe the guy who's done the most map videos of any creator out there. So I kind of feel that I'm known for map videos, map reviews, map guides, whatever you want to call them. I've been doing that since 2017. Been playing the game since 2016, so we're coming up on 9 years, I guess, of playing and 8 years of content creation around Farming Simulator. We also do hopefully twice a week live streams where we just chill out and play the game and talk about random stuff. I was an ambassador, but that program's over now. I'm now a cultivator. That was announced yesterday. So cultivators are going to try to engage the community more where giants can't directly do it. So I suspect most of your audience, definitely most of my audience, is U.S. based, and there's a whole whopping 2 giants employees for the entire Western Hemisphere, I guess you could say. So North America, South America, there's 2 guys. So
Wow.
it's a little bit underrepresented from their staffing point. And it's a global game. So the Cultivators is a program to try to reach out to people who are energetic with the game, passionate about the game, and can be a kind of intermediary between other people who are passionate about the game and giants to relay feedback, but also to engage meetups and engage kind of excitement within the region. So excited to get that started and maybe try to plan our first meetup this fall.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Being able to do like the engagements and the socials and all that stuff. That would be fun. So let's see.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. A little trepidatious, but exciting.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our first segment here. We call this segment Digging Up Dirt. This is where we get to know who you are for your outside of farm sim content. So, first things first, do you have a job outside of content creation, or is content creation your primary job?
Oh, I very much have a day job. Um, Day job, I work in IT at a private college in Virginia. So I'm also based on the East Coast. Um, and that's what I do for the last 30 years. I graduated high school in 92. Don't date me. Graduated high school or college in 96. Don't date me. And then started working there the next day. So I've been there since. So that's me. I do tech during the day and I come home and try to play at night. And hopefully Farm Sim helps kind of melt all the stresses away of the day and set you up to start it all over again the next day.
Out of curiosity, do you have like a specialty within the IT field, or?
Uh, no. Well, I mean, I'm kind of one of the senior managers in the department, so being there for 30 years, I've pretty much done it all from being the original PC tech to basically managing. Now I manage all of the physical things, you could almost say. So their desktop support reports through me, network supports reports through me. I do phone systems. I do contract work for copiers and other things like that. So sometimes I tell people basically it's like if you can see it and touch it and it's technology, I ultimately have some responsibility over it.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So, would you say that your most common thing you say is restart it?
Well, if you've ever seen a British talk show, IT crowd, you know that it's Have you tried turning it off and back on again? And yes, that's repeated daily, and you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. So we just jump in and do a remote support session and say, let's just reboot first thing and see what happens, and it fixes 99% of the problems.
I completely understand. I'm in a very similar field, and although I have kind of moved out of the kind of physical aspect and moved into the more like reports and analytics side of things, yeah, I definitely have the roots, back into the like in the physical. So I completely understand. That was something in common sense for me for a very long time. So let me ask, what kind of hobbies do you have? Do you like to go hiking, fishing? Do you watch sports?
I have officially given up all sports as far as watching, and I gave up playing sports a long time ago. Um, Outside of content creation, there isn't a lot of time for hobbies. But the last year or so, I've kind of been watching these guys who on YouTube make scale models out of, I guess it's called part work or something, where you basically subscribe to a model and they ship you parts every month and you put it together. And I've put together a couple cars. They're like 2 feet long and 30 pounds, and they're made of steel, plastic, and wire, and um, they're like 1/8 scale, maybe. I don't remember the exact scale, but it's a kind of an interesting thing. Helps keep the hands dexterity. And now you get a little older, you got to pull out your magnifying glass so you can see these little screws and things. But maybe that's what I do outside of content creation and being in tech. You just can't get away from tech, so I just gotta dabble with tech too.
So with I mean, a 1/8 model, something being like 2 feet long, that sounds like more of like a monster of a model. Like that's I don't think I've ever seen anything at that scale before. Like, i- is that like something that like after it's all said and built, is like everything like kind of like to scale, like let's say you get like a 68 Mustang or something like that, and you just kind of assemble that. I mean, does it legitimately look like a 1/8 scale, like something that would fit on your tabletop kind of thing?
Exactly. Um, so I built a scale model of a 1963 Corvette,
Oh.
Stingray Corvette. That's the one with the split window down the back.
Mm-hmm.
I built a 1/8 scale of Kit, right, from Knight Rider, as
Okay.
a child of the um, 80s, growing up in the 80s, right? Knight Rider is a cool thing. So I built that. And yeah, it's a pretty big thing. It's got doors that open, windows that wind up and down, seats that move. Like you assemble the engine.
Wow.
You
So I'm
wired it, right? The lights flip up. It's got sounds. It's got a remote control. It doesn't move, but it's a deal. I mean, Kit took 2 years to build, and the Corvette took 1 year to build.
wow. So like this is not just a like a typical model that you could probably assemble in like a weekend or even a couple of weekends. This is, well, I'm sure that's also exacerbated because having the full-time job and whatnot. um that's wow, that sounds impressive. So is it like just really down to the details, like every little like nut and bolt kind of thing, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you the suspension together. You put the steering rack in. You could, in theory, turn the wheel, and the steering rack turns left and right. You've got a little bit of suspension play. There's some models where you might have a wire spoke wheel, and I've not had to put it together a wire spoke rim before, but there are models where you literally have to put a wire spoke rim together with little wire spokes. it's it's tedious, but it helps maybe center the brain, and completely you can't be thinking about other things, right? It's like you're in the zone with your magnifying little headpiece on, and you're trying to deal with these little screws and little screwdrivers to get things put together. And hope after a year things actually get put together and it works, right?
For sure, for sure. So, you mentioned that you used to uh, watch sports or follow sports. Uh, was there a reason why you stopped, or is it just not enough time?
I I stopped watching football when they decided that they wanted to become more political than play football. And I was like, you know what, we're done. And my personality allows me to quit things cold turkey almost. Like, so I was big in football, college and everything, big football after college, but kind of the end thing was when they started getting more political and using their
Oh,
stature as a football player to make political statements. I'm like, all right, I'm done. And I quit watching them at that point. And I used to watch NASCAR a lot. Um, and then Monster Energy came into play, and they had Grid Girl show up, and I was like, this is not nothing. So I quit watching that. At that point, pretty much the only sport I follow is I follow F1 at this point, and we don't have cable at the house. So I just watch highlights on the internet.
so I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but it seems like the call is kind of getting buggy. Let me try and reestablish it real quick and disconnect and reconnect with you just real fast. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and try that. Can you hear me now?
Back,
Uh,
you're kind of a robot. Am I a robot?
you're starting to clear up. Not quite
All
sure
right, yeah,
what's
you're
going
good.
on. All right, so let's go ahead and continue there. I apologize for that, everybody. So, so you were saying how because the politics that was getting interjected into football, you just kind of fell out of it.
Yeah, if there was like for my wife, she had a deal where she loves the Ravens. We're pretty close to Baltimore, so she loves the Ravens, and they did a deal, I guess, where they went and played in London, maybe, or I think it was Ravens and 49ers, because I was a big 49ers fan for years. Way back when Jerry Rice and Joe Montana were there, Jerry Rice, Steve Young. Um, so we go back quite a ways. And I think it was like they wouldn't stand for the national anthem. So we were like, well, if they're not going to stand for a national anthem, I'm not standing for them. And we just stopped watching.
I gotcha. I completely understand that. It's that definitely turned me off as well. So let me ask you this: do you like to read?
I am a horribly slow reader. And in fact, if you watch my videos and I'm reading descriptions of map posts, I'm literally trying to read that as fast as I possibly can, and it probably comes across as slow. So I end up skipping words and like, well, that looks like this word, so I'm just going to say it's that word. I'm horribly slow reading. So I listen to books through audiobooks. Got about a 30-minute commute every day each way. So I've been doing audiobooks for probably well over 10 years. Um, and that's kind of my time to just zone out and drive and listen to books.
I gotcha. Do you have a favorite that you like to turn to, or
I like sci-fi. Sci-fi. Um, I got a couple nice series that I like that I try to keep up with, but kind of anything sci-fi. I've listened to pretty much everything in the Dune saga. Um, all the modern books, all the retro books, and all that, and several other things.
okay? And what about movies or television? Do you like to watch movies or TV?
We cut the cord. We don't really have cable, so we stopped really watching TV. Um, I've not watched. The only time I watch a TV show is if I'm traveling and we're in a hotel, and if I'm not lucky, I end up watching Forged in the Fire on the History Channel for a day because you just can't stop watching that show. Or back in the day, we'd accidentally land on the How It's Made show on Sci-Fi or Science or whatever, and that was a whole afternoon wasted because you just can't stop watching that. Um, but yeah, and I don't know what the last movie I watched. It may have been the D&D movie with my kid, whenever that came out.
I gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that how it's made is ridiculous, and how much of your life you can waste away. Like if they have a marathon going, whew,
Yeah,
I just get enthralled in it.
you're just done, right? The whole day's gone.
So what kind of music do you listen to?
I'm incredibly boring. I honestly don't listen to too much music anymore because if I'm in the car, I probably have the audiobook on.
I gotcha, gotcha. So what would you have listened to prior to audiobook days?
Oh, back in the day, like college time, I was into had some Metallica stuff. I kind of had some of the, rock. I had I guess you call it light rock back in the day. Definitely not definitely not pop or hip hop or anything like that. Um Starting to grow a little bit on country, but definitely not bluegrass. Stay away from that stuff. Back in the day, growing up, my dad would play country music super loud, so that was kind of like the put off on that until you got away from there, and then suddenly you started hearing maybe songs that weren't cranked to 12, um, and blaring throughout the whole house. So, but these days it's very little. I don't think I could name a single song that's probably aired in the last 10 years.
I gotcha, gotcha. So, with the influx of audiobooks and that you've been going through, especially on your commutes, uh, what would you say has been either the kind of oddest or weirdest kind of book that you've come across? Book, movie, or television show that, throughout your lifetime?
Oh, I don't know about honest. Um, a book, an interesting book that I'd like to talk about was a book from, I don't know who the author is, but it was all about the Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. And it was a fun book where like guys who were involved with the Skunk Works talked about the construction and development of the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber and the Black Hawk um, spy plane and things like that. So that was a fun read, an interesting read that gave me remarkably great background and insight to Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Was a book called Console Wars, and it was all about Sony and Microsoft, or Sony. No, neither of those. It was all about Nintendo and Sega's um, war with respect to the N64 and the Sega Genesis, Sega Master System back in the day. I was a Sega guy. Um, Other people had, Nintendo, and there was pretty big divide. But it was interesting on how the two companies basically played against each other and forged kind of the gaming environment from the ground up, from Atari and things like that to what we have today. And the book kind of ended with the emergence of Sony. And if you're not aware, Sony was going to partner with Nintendo to make a disc for the Nintendo to compete against Sega's disc product. And then Sony decided, I could make more money if I made my own thing. And the PlayStation was born. And well, now we know that the PlayStation won out and is kind of the dominant console these days.
So it sounds like you got a pretty extensive background in gaming. Are you like a kind of long-time gamer, or is it something that's recently been picked up?
I would say a long-time gamer, not to date me, but growing up, I've played like, the Atari with the stick and the single button. Um, I've played, we had at home an Intellivision that had paddles and this number pad and had little curly cables that were way too short. Going back to the console, um, it was an interesting product, an interesting control because it had paddles and things. And then I got, at some point in high school, I got a Sega Genesis. Um, in college, I didn't necessarily have a console, but the dorm I was in, we had a guy who was big into PC gaming, and this was back in Windows 3.1 and DOS days when things just didn't work. You had to make it work. Um, N64, played a heck of a lot of Mario Kart back in the day. Played the original PlayStation, had the original Xbox, and then I got away from gaming for a long time. And then around 2014, 2015, I had a massive itch to get into sim racing. And I built out a sim racing setup, got wheels, got pedals, and got into sim racing hard. And did sim racing for a while. And if you've ever been involved in sim racing with iRacing, you know that races are scheduled. Like every race has a schedule. It's against real people online. And when you get higher up in the leagues, a race might last 3 hours long. And if you crash out or you get crashed out early, you might have to wait 4 hours before the next race. So I needed something to fill the gap, and I found Farm Sim, and that's where we are today.
Oh, that's pretty cool actually. So in these car sim uh leagues that you were in, um so it had a schedule, it had like a very specific kind of protocol as to how it operated. I know like in real racing, like not simulator racing, there's opportunities to be able to either do repairs or things like that. Was there ever anything along those lines where you could rejoin the race later, or is it if your car's totaled, wrecked, you had no opportunity, you're just done?
It's like real racing. So so if you pit, right? If you get messed up, you pit. And the simulation basically says, "Oh, you have, let's say, 5 minutes worth of damage." So you sit on the pit for 5 minutes while people are running around the track. Um, so just like a real race where your pit crew's like trying to fix your fender and make everything nice and slap tape on it and get you back out there. 5 minutes later, you might be 12 laps down. And you got like 200 laps to go. You know that you're probably going to be toward the tail end of the race. Lots of people would just quit at that point, um, because it's better to DNF than to spend 3 hours and get 30th place.
So was the simulator like intuitive enough to where if you were to be able to, like, you got into a small wreck or something, little fender bender, whatever, and you got taken off the course, but you came back into it, was it intuitive enough to kind of recognize like, hey, your car's damaged, so it's not going to perform as well as it used to, or?
Exactly.
Wow, that
Yeah. So
sounds.
you'd be down on performance. You might be slow, right? So then you got to deal with lap traffic and not get anyone else's way. Just like a real race, right? Just like real NASCAR or a real road course, and things like that. And points system, right? So if you every lap you run clean, you get a point. You get points. Every lap that you don't run clean, if you have an incident, you get points taken away, and you have various classes, and the classes are based on your points. And unlike real life, where if someone wrecks you, it's clearly their fault. In sim racing, if someone wrecks you, it's both your faults because you didn't get out of the way. And that's super frustrating when you're like, dude, like it slammed into the back of me. You didn't hit any brakes. How's this my fault? But you still get incident points and things. So I turned to farm sim because racing was stressful. And at some point, my brain said, I produce endorphins when you farm. I don't produce endorphins when you race. And therefore, you feel happier when you farm. And as a byproduct, I stopped racing. Again, I quit cold. Just one day said, all right, I'm done. And I went back a couple times. But right now, we just do casual races every so often.
It's amazing how Farming Simulator, for as open world and open ended as it is, I don't want to say there's not a point, because there obviously is, but there's no like end goal. There's nothing to like strive towards besides, building up or building your coffers up. Which, like you kind of alluded to, is very freeing. It's very like unimpactful and non-stressful. So yeah, I completely understand what you're saying in regards to that. Um, do you feel like it's one of those that, because of the lack of stress and the lack of like the emotional charge that came with playing those other style of games, is that why you just kind of fell out of those and went into the farm sim? Is just like, wow, I don't have to be stressed out, I don't have to be upset.
Yeah, it's kind of this realization moment. Like first person shooters are popular. My kid's going into middle school and he's getting out of those now. Um, but he would be playing Fortnite and he would be screaming at the TV because somebody was cheating or he thought someone was cheating or somebody was like squatting somewhere and just sniping you when you spawned in, and that's not cool. And I was like, dude, just quit, just stop. Like you're getting so angry, you're getting so worked up. He starts crying. It's like, just gaming is meant for fun. If you're not having fun, stop because you're doing it wrong. And that's kind of where I picked up the whole, if you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. Um, Figure out how to have fun and then do it right. And there's no wrong way to play farm sim because the only right way to play farm sim is the way you want to play it. And if you want to play super unrealistic, that's fine. If you want to play super realistic, that's fine. What's not cool is when you show up and say, play this way. And it's like, I don't want to play that way. But you can go play that way all you want. Um, it's open ended. You can do whatever you want. And I like every time I try to do something different. I don't want to play the same way every time because then it's just wash, rinse, and repeat.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's the whole point of how the game is designed is to be so incredibly open ended that anybody can pick up the controller, anybody can, pull in front of the keyboard and just go to town however they see fit, do whatever they want, however style of farming. I couldn't agree with you more. So let me ask you this. What would you do if, for one reason or another, content creation was no longer an option for you? Let's say your computer blew up and you didn't have the means to be able to repair it, or whatever the case may be.
What would I do? I don't know. I'd figure something out. But really, I have 7 computers in this office right now. I'd have something that works.
You totally just flexed on your IT credentials, didn't you?
Yeah, maybe. But one PC goes out, that's fine. That's fine. I got others. Um,
You got backups for your backups. You know what? I completely understand and appreciate that. So let me ask you this: has it always been a dream of yours to be a content creator, or do you feel like you just fell into it?
I was never a dream. Um, Back in 2015, I like YouTube was new. I think my YouTube account's 2009. Maybe that's when YouTube got created. Heck, I don't know. But it was never a goal. Like I want to go out and make content. I started watching Farm Sim. Like I had no clue the Farm Sim just 6 or 17 just came out, but I just started watching 17 content. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like you can literally do anything. Pretty sure I watched a squad video where he was like riding around motorcycles and he was going camping up in a field and things. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then I watched another guy who was playing ultra realistic um with things, and I watched another guy who was doing agri forestry where he like a row of trees and then like 6 meters worth of crop and then another row of trees. And I was like, well, that's weird. Um, and this game will allow you to do whatever you want. And coming from other games where it's like, well, this is what you do, and everyone plays this way, it was an interesting concept. And then I started watching people who would do mod reviews or map reviews or kind of online live streams of let's just go explore this map on live stream. And one of the guys I watched just poof stopped doing content. And I thought, I could probably do that. And I just started doing it. I'm like, I could do the same thing he was doing. And that's where it all started.
Okay, so it was one of those that you felt that there was a gap and that you wanted to try and fill it.
Yeah, basically. Although that guy was sometimes a lot negative. Like he would pick things apart almost to the point of that's not cool. Like, someone actually worked on this. And like I don't want to be the guy that picks things apart. Um, I'll call it out if it's not working right, but I'm not gonna like do this is how you make it fix it type of a thing. So yeah, and then I just morphed into making my own kind of format over the years by watching other people early on and thinking, well, I like how he does that. I like how he does that. Like there was a guy way back in the day who would always buy animals. And I thought that was interesting. And he would buy animals and sometimes they would float in the air because the mesh wasn't right. I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. So I just started buying an animal in every pen just to see if it would spawn. Sometimes it crashes maps. Um, you know, so okay, sure. Like if you buy something at a shop, where does it show up? I don't really reset things, but that's also sometimes something people ask, like where does it go if you reset it? Um, and things like that. So I just what would I be interested in a map on? And that's what I try to put in the video.
Gotcha. So you mentioned before how you've got kids and you work a full-time job. How do you find that proper balance between, the home life, the work life, and the farm sim life?
It's a struggle. Um, it's a struggle, but family's first, and I try to build out a schedule that I can realistically do. And I pulled back over the years. I used to do pre-recorded live or pre-recorded let's play type stuff, live streams and map stuff. And then at the end of 2019, I'm like, I'm done with pre-recorded stuff because that just takes way too much time. And focused on just maps and live streams going forward. As more and more people start making maps and more maps come out, it's more of a there's hardly any time to do a live stream now because they're trying to keep up with map stuff. Um, while at the same time, I gotta, we got stuff here at the house. I got a college senior that's going to start here in a month. I got a kid moving into middle school. Um, and you gotta come home. Sometimes you gotta make dinner. Sometimes the wife makes dinner, but you also gotta do other things. You gotta mow the grass. You gotta keep up with stuff like that too. So it's all about just trying to build a realistic schedule that you can really keep up and keep at it.
Makes sense to me. So, do you like to travel?
Honestly, no. Um, Pretty much I'm a homebody. The only real traveling I do recently is to farm sim events. Uh, Me and the youngest kid go to PAX East. Been to PAX East for the last 3 years. It's kind of our big trip. I go solo to the National Farm Machine Show in Kentucky. That's kind of my solo getaway. But other than that, we really don't do much traveling anymore.
Gotcha. And so, with you being one of the new cultivators for the entire farm sim community here, um, not wanting to necessarily or not liking to travel, not necessarily not wanting to, but do you feel that that might be something that might cause some abrasion or be difficult to do, or do you feel like this is just going to be something that you're going to be like more excited than anything, and you're going to want to do it?
Uh, I mean, if it came across that I don't like to travel, like it's a burden, that's not necessarily the case. It's just the idea of, well, let's just go someplace. I got a guy who works for me, real quick. We'll go back to this story. He's young. He's like in his 20s. And one day he told me, "Yeah, we're gonna go to the lake, which is like a 40-minute drive from where he lives. We're gonna go to the lake in the morning, and then we're gonna go to DC for the afternoon. DC is a 3-hour drive each way." I'm like, "What are you doing? And you're gonna do this all in one day?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's crazy." He told me he drove to Chicago one day or someplace and came back. I'm like, "What? You just
Wow.
decided to do that? Like, what?" Um, I mean, I'm going to Chicago the first week in September for the Sim Gaming Expo. That'll be fun. But it's like family vacations and things. That's not. I've never had fun on any family vacation. So, but traveling to meet up with other people who are into farm sim, that'll be interesting. Um, I'm kind of a logistics guy, so the logistics of setting up a meeting and setting up things is part of the fun, if you will, and then going and participating. I'm not really a people person, but I'll do it.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So, what would you say kind of inspires or motivates you in just in general in life?
Jeez, talk about an open-ended question. I don't know. What do other people say?
I mean, I've heard of range of family, or if they don't have any, if they're on the younger side and don't have family established yet. I've heard jobs or to travel or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's no real wrong answer to this.
I don't. I mean, I don't know. Um, Motivate to get out of the bed every day to go earn money, so I still have a roof under my head and pay the bills and things. Provide for the family. I'm the primary breadwinner, I guess you could say. So it's like I said a long time ago. I My dream job is that the wife earns all the money and I can just stay home and game. That's not going to happen anymore. So I got to work. And kind of motivated to just provide for the family. That's probably the motivation, I guess.
There you go. Okay, okay. So, what's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I'm left-handed. I don't know. No one's ever told me they were surprised to find something out about me. But Yeah, maybe I'm shorter than they think I am. I don't know. Nobody ever looks the way they sound.
Okay. So like if somebody has like a visual built up in their brain right now, not going to be the way that they think.
Probably not. I always imagine myself as the that picture, the old guy with the pitchfork, and the old woman right next to him. Right?
Okay.
If I could do a animated avatar like that, that would be my dude. It's totally not me though, but that would be my dude.
That's how you would visualize yourself, but not who you really are.
Completely.
I gotcha. So do you own any pets?
Yes. Um, we're not a cat people, but we have lots of cats. Um, we have tons of cats. We got outside cat. We got inside cat. Uh, the wife and the kid have a dog. I could not be motivated to have a dog and be fine with it. So we've got cats, dogs. I used to be big into aquariums. In fact, probably that's that's the period of time in my life where I didn't do gaming. Was I was in heavy into freshwater and saltwater aquariums, and then I had a kid, and I couldn't afford saltwater aquariums anymore, so I cold turkeyed it.
From what I understand, because I've got a buddy of mine who does salt water. From what I understand, it's an insane amount of work. Uh, the slightest thing can throw the entire ecosystem into a complete disarray. Like I don't know if I'd have the energy or the motivation to be able to maintain a saltwater. I've got a freshwater. It's right over behind my left shoulder over here, but I mean, is it truly as involved as what he makes it out to be?
It's a process, yeah. I mean, freshwater is pretty simple, right? You as long as you don't use tap water, and I mean, you can kind of get away with tap water as long as you don't have super heavy chlorine in the water, and you keep the temperature halfway okay. Like you can almost grow anything and keep anything alive. But saltwater, it's very specific temperatures, very specific salt levels, and as water evaporates, it gets saltier. So you have to keep up with that. You have to mix up new salt and add that and do water changes with mixed up salt. So I'd have 55-gallon drums of salt in the basement mixed up with a pump, just keeping it circulated, and an RO filter, like just making new water so I can mix up new salt. And um, yeah, yeah, it's a process.
Ooh, man, it sounds like a process. Like he tried to explain it to me one time, and by the time he was all done telling me everything that was involved with it, I'm pretty sure the glassy-eyed look just came over my face, and I was like, okay. So I know that's not one I'm wanting to do, but I'll deal with the fresh water. That's relatively straightforward. So what kind of fish did you have?
I mean, we had saltwater stuff, so we had your clownfish, we had some tangs, we had some gobies, we had lots of coral. They're not fish, but they're alive. Um, there was, I guess, our favoritist fish was a flame angel. Um, it's a really really dark red, I think. Colorblind, so we'll just go with sure it was reddish. But I think it was reddish and blue, maybe a little bit of yellow there on it. It's been decades since we've had that, but yeah, it was a fun endeavor while it lasted.
So that same friend of mine, he would deal with like the venomous fish. Like he at one point he was dealing with a lionfish, keeping up with one of those, and I guess he was cleaning the tank, had his hand in there, and I guess he wasn't paying attention and got tagged by it. I guess they got these little poisonous barbs. Um, yeah, that was a interesting hospital trip according to him. And yeah, again, just one of those that I'm not motivated by, maintaining, having that level of maintenance and that level of like, I don't know, like knowledge or whatever that you have to like, this is the procedure, which seems kind of antithetical considering that we play a game that is nothing but procedural based. But I certainly was never motivated in having some kind of animal that could, you know, be a danger to me, kind of thing. I have dogs. You might see them in the background here, but uh, each one of them, I hand select kind of thing. It's not a danger whatsoever. But I don't know. Just that just seems like a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's. I mean, you can just sit in your chair and just stare at it at night, and it's your little ocean, your little getaway. Um, we had eels. I had some eels too, but nothing that would ever have the potential of trying to kill you through, anaphylactic shock or anything like that. Um, and it's fun to like, you come home at night and you see your 1,000 watts of metal hydride lights lighting up the living room, and wondering if the neighbors are curious if you've got grow lights or something because your house is lit up brighter than every other house in the neighborhood.
Now I'm sure you get the inquisitive electrical bills. It's like, what's going on in this house?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were there too. But then
It's
you just
funny.
get a gaming laptop. You get a gaming PC that runs 600 watts and you game all night. So
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's funny because part of the other reason why I was never really into the saltwater scene was because, like I mentioned, it's not only is it a process, but it's a very fragile ecosystem that you're putting in there. My buddy was telling me that he ended up getting these um, uh, something called the ick, I think it was called, in one of his tanks. I guess he didn't
yeah,
quarantine his fish
yeah.
properly, and um, so he got a new one, and that it just yeah, it completely ruined the entire tank. Hundreds upon hundreds of dollars that is inside that tank, just with the animals itself, not to mention the coral and the time and energy that's put into it. So it's one of those like, man, I would hate to invest all that time, all that energy, all that money, and then all of a sudden I make one oopsie and the entire thing is gone.
It's a lesson to remember for sure, not to cut corners and get your stuff from trusted sources. Like we want to get mods from trusted sources and just not, oh, what's this? Let me download it. And now my game is completely broken. Um, it's a lesson you learn once and hopefully never repeat.
You know what? That's a very good point. Very good point. So, do you follow a lot of content outside or inside the farming simulator community? Like, do you go onto YouTube or anything like that?
I used to follow probably a good half dozen to 8 or 9 creators a long time ago. I honestly I don't anymore. I watch very little actual farm sim content now these days for a few reasons. Um, Mostly because I want to sequester myself away from other people's opinions, and I've got to. I'm very much motivated. Like I do not want to ever come across as someone who's just like pretending to be someone else or oh you've said this because you heard somebody else say that or whatever. I want everything that I say to be mine, and if other people are saying the same thing, that's fine. We just share the same opinion, right? um I also have a tendency sometimes to pick up people's mannerisms or sayings, So the more I keep myself away from that, the less apt I am to pick up and just start using someone's lingo by accident or anything. But it's not that I don't want to. It's just I'm choosing to keep myself away from it, so I don't. One for maps, like I don't want to have other people's opinions affect my opinion when I see something. But also I just want to keep it fresh for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. It makes total sense, and I try to do something similar. It's one of those where, you know, it is a real thing. You know, having your either your opinion tainted or your content not tainted is probably too strong of a word, but just influenced. You know, by watching somebody else's stuff, you might unconsciously kind of mirror them or just kind of do something along those lines. And if you want to have your own kind of flavor to the space, then yeah, going out and consuming other people's content, especially in the sphere that you exist in, can very much be be a double-edged sword at that point. So yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying there. So you'd mentioned that, for your job that you basically got that out of college, correct?
Yep, exactly. I worked as a student worker back in the computer labs, back when we had computer labs. And it was like, I'm a senior and I got to figure out a job. And the stress of graduating college and needing to find a job and then needing to find some place to live and didn't want to go home. So I kind of had to find something somewhere. And they were growing the department and like, hey, you want to come work for us? And basically be the technician. I'm like, well, okay. Like, I know how to use computers, but I don't know how to make a computer or build a computer. Or I can figure it out. I grew up on a farm, so it was all about, somewhat mechanically inclined. Um, so next graduation day, next day, show up at work, 8 a.m. Let's get to work.
So was that your like first paying job, is the one that came after college, or did you have what was your first paying job?
First paying job was sitting on a roadside selling sweet corn for weeks. Um, that paid some pretty good money. Of course, that was family job. I got paid. I got paid wages to do work on the farm. Um, but again, that's a family job. So going into college, it was like I really need a job somewhere else because I can't really put on a resume. At the time, I was going to be a business major, maybe an accountant and things. I can't really put on my resume wanting to be an accountant that I was farm labor. So I started working at a air conditioning company, regional air conditioning company that probably had a dozen um, shops in the greater DC, Northern Virginia area. And I was in the warehouse, driving forklifts, loading trucks that would go out to the various stores. Sometimes I'd have to special delivery something to a store. So I did that for a couple summers in college. That would probably be my first real job outside of a family employment.
Okay. And then going back to the models that you were, talking about building, do you have an affinity for cars, or is it just the models themselves?
I mean, what American guy doesn't have an affinity for horsepower and gasoline, right? Um, yeah, growing up is like everyone likes cars, and the '63 Corvette was always kind of a go-to. Man, I'd love to own a '63 Corvette. Well, now I do. It's just a little small, um, and it's sitting in the office. I see it every day when I go to work, um, and things. So nowadays, I'm very utilitarian. I'll tell a story of when I went to buy a car One of the times I went to buy a car, I just rolled up the dealership and I said, "Here are my 3 rules. 1, it's not a Ford. 2, it's got to have 4 doors. And 3, it's got to be, fairly new, low mileage, but it was going to be used." So that's my only rules. So like, well, how about this car? I said, what is rule number 1? No Ford. Move on to the next one. What color do you want? I've told you my 3 rules. Color's not in there, right? At the time we had a kid in a car seat, 4 doors was a requirement. So yeah, that's very utilitarian. Like, I got a car, I need a car that gets the job done. I don't have the liberty of getting a car that's hopped up at this point.
Gotcha. So, what would be your dream car if, let's say, money was no object? You can go out and buy your dream car. What would it be?
I honestly don't know right now. I also tend to not want to fantasize about too much because then I get depressed because I can't afford things like that. So yeah, I don't know. Um, we'll go with this. The Lamborghini Miura. Um,
Oh, okay.
I think it's just I think it's just hot. I like the styling. I like the lines. Um, I like the story about it. I watched a Haggerty video about the making of the Miura. I think it was titled something like Lamborghini made by kids because they were all like in their 30s
Mm-hmm.
and never had really designed a car before. Um, and the guy who owned Lamborghini like sold people on the car before it ever existed. It's kind of an interesting story, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I heard that very similar story being told by the Top Gear guys. Don't know if you're familiar with that show. It was like a UK based show about cars and
Greatest show ever.
oh, okay, we can be friends. We can absolutely be friends.
Greatest show ever. And then the trio left, and then it was like, this is junk.
Yeah, the show was
Uh,
absolutely built around those 3 guys.
their Amazon show was okay, but it was junk.
It
It
just
was the formula didn't work anymore.
it was definitely trying to recapture the magic and without having all the kind of installed components that were already in Top Gear, like the Stig, was a perfect example. They tried to redo the Stig, um, and yeah, it wasn't gonna be recaptured, unfortunately, in my opinion. But
Yeah, and they're crazy stunts. It was absolutely hilarious.
like some of
Um,
the like specials that they did, like uh they did like one in Iraq and they did another one in I think it was like Bosnia, one in the like somewhere in Africa. Like it's just they basically made these big challenges that they had to do and had to put these cars through them and it was ridiculous. There was one in Vietnam. Like those are some of the most entertaining, shows that in my opinion that they had were those specials.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just they were clearly just goofing off
Hmm.
and having a great time. Um, and somebody was footing a very expensive bill for the show. Um, but yeah, I don't think it'll ever be repeated. The American Top Gear was junk. Um, I know there's been like an Australian one and stuff, but I think just the chemistry of the 3 and the environment of the UK at the time allowed them to do things that just can't be redone anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. All right. Well, that is the end of the first segment there. So let's go ahead and turn our eyes onto the chat and see what they have to say. I want to give a big shout out to Dust Bunny. Dust Bunny, thank you so much for gathering up all these questions. You make this portion of the show so much simpler. So starting out with Schultz Modding. Schultz Modding, thank you so much for your first question here. It says, interesting factoid. Can we pose as a question? Like, is he really colorblind, or or has he been a ruse for all these years? So are you really
Yeah,
colorblind, or?
yes, legit colorblind. I can fail any colorblind test you throw at me. Um, it's a blue-green colorblind. Doesn't mean I don't see blue. Doesn't mean I don't see green. Oddly enough, it means I'm less sensitive to certain other colors. I sometimes I would tell a wife when we were young, it's like, I really can't see that red light up there. So I just assume if I can't see green and I can't see yellow, it must be red. So I need to stop. Um, when I get closer to a light, I'll see it, but from a far distance, it's not lit. And people say red's it's a really vibrant color. I'm like, really? Because it's kind of dark. Um, red on black, it's impossible for me to see anything. So like at work, home, I run black dark mode, right? Because I can't stand having my retina's burned out. And then someone will be like, I marked up things with a question in red. I'm like, seriously? Why don't you go back and bold them? Because I can't see what you've marked unless I stare at it for a very, very, very long time. So, yep, pretty much legit. I mean, he should know by the poor choices I do with colors when I buy tractors and just pick colors. Like they burn your retina apparently.
So that must make your channel logo rather interesting to look at, considering that it's a red on black.
Is it red on black?
The Case Steiger
It's,
sure is.
the tires are red, right? Black tires are black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't make that, by the way. I can't make anything artistic, but yeah, it's a Steiger with a diamond plate. You know, yeah.
Gotcha. So Schultz Monty also asks, or does he really use a trackball mouse?
Yes, I really use the trackball mouse because interesting factoid. Like I said, I got into sim racing. That's what got me back into PC gaming. And there was this thing a long time ago. I don't think it's red anymore. It was called did I mention I'm horrible with names? I don't remember what it was called. But the idea was you put up stuff you don't want anymore and it's free. And people like go, "Oh, I want that. I'll go pick it up." So somebody had posted that they had a driving sim rig, and all I had to do was go to Virginia Beach to pick it up. Virginia Beach is like a 3.5 hour drive each way. So I rented a van and drove to Virginia Beach. Went to the guy's house. He me loaded up into the truck, and it's a wooden contraption that he built. You can get plans to build this stuff off the internet. So I game in a driving rig that's 3 inches off the ground. So my mouse is sitting on a coffee end table, which is the exact right height for me where I'm sitting on the ground. And therefore, I don't have a lot of room for a real mouse. So I have a trackball.
Okay, okay. Now I know like the trackballs, they tend to be a lot more precise. Was that any kind of determining factor for you wanting to use that, or?
No, it was legit. Like I needed space and moving your arm around for for the mouse wasn't really an option. So the trackball, right? You just flip your thumb. It makes front loader work extremely easy because I can just left click and flick the thumb and like dump bucket dumps, claw closes, right? Thing lifts up, down. Unlike a regular mouse, though, sometimes if you go up, it also thinks you're going left and right. So it's not super precise with movements like that. Um, but yeah, I'll make them sick one day when I'm live streaming and I'm rotating faster than any human could ever move a mouse. That's pretty evident I'm using a trackball at that point because there's no way you can spin the camera that quick.
Gotcha. So again, Schultz Modding, thank you so much for your questions. We got one from Jacer. Jacer asks, "Are his cables as orderly at home as they are at work?"
No.
One of those that you're required to do it for work, but not required for home.
At work, it's got to look good for lots of other people to see.
Mm-hmm.
At home, it's me and myself, and that's it.
Jacer also asks, "Does kit talk?" Referring to the model kit.
It does, but sadly, when I was piecing the body and the chassis together, most of the electrics don't work anymore. But yeah, he should talk. But somehow I cut a wire or something happened, so his electronics don't work.
Gotcha. Again, Jason, thank you so much for your question. We got another one from Schultz, and it's just a generic. Ask him about his fish tanks. I think we already covered that one, so we can go on ahead and head on to the next one. Again, Schultz, thank you so much for your question. We got one from Cavalier Roy. Says 2 questions. If Giants approached you to see which map you wanted them to bring back of their own maps, which one would they be? Which one and why?
Which Giants map should return? So I started playing Farm Sim 17. So I have a little nostalgia for Goldcrest Valley, but not a whole lot. I played a little bit of that South American map. Don't remember the name. Elm Creek was a trash pile, so not that map. I don't really know if they would bring back another one, honestly, because I don't go back that far for Giants maps. I think every
Okay.
map they've released has been better than the last map they've released. So to that end, I really don't want them to go back and release another one unless they completely redo it.
I gotcha. That
I mean,
makes sense.
if they were to completely redo Goldcrest Valley in FS25 standards with FS25 buildings and trees and textures, that would be an interesting revisit.
So is it just the kind of nostalgia that would make you want to bring back Goldcrest Valley, or is there like something else that kind of speaks to you about that map?
Mostly to like compare, like when Giants celebrated their birthday a couple years ago, I went and I basically installed 17, 19, and 22. And we played a little bit of 17, a little bit of 19, a little bit of 22 over a 2-hour period. And it was really interesting seeing the progression and seeing how things looked back in 2017. And people were like, well, Farm Sim 25 is just blah, blah, blah with mods. And no, it's not, because you're completely blind if you think that is, because it's drastically different visually, drastically different on the back end. And just going back and playing Farm Sim 15 or 17 is very obvious when you see that. Even at 1080p, we're not talking about 4K or anything. It's just wow, a big change in that many years.
No, absolutely. Like I've been playing since FS19, and going from 19 to 25, it's a radically different game. I can only imagine, because I haven't played 17 or anything before that it would just be like incrementally just that vast gap. Like I feel like every iteration that I've played, there's been a significant upgrade from one to the next, and making such a leap from 17 to 25, like there'd be no comparison.
Yeah, so the idea of let's take a 17 map and bring it to true 25 standards, and what would it look like today? What could it look like today, as opposed to just bringing it into 25 but still having 17 textures?
Gotcha, gotcha. Again, Cavalier Roy, thank you so much for your question. We got one from Chris S. Chris asks, restart it. Isn't that like Alt F4?
Alt F4 just closes the app unless you spam it a lot, and then it might restart the PC. He can try it. I'm not gonna do it.
I wouldn't recommend it. Again, Chris, thank you so much for your question. We got one from Ken says, have you seen the new Iowa Plains map yet?
No, I don't think I've done a map video on it, so therefore no.
Has that been a map that's on your radar at all, or?
I don't follow anything. I don't follow anyone. It goes back to keeping it fresh. There's a story. We'll tell a story about a map back in the day, back in FS 17, maybe FS 19, one of the two. Back when I was on the forums a lot, people would post screenshots of maps. By the way, they're very curated screenshots. Sometimes they're touched up. That's not how a map really looks when you get it. So there was a very, very, very well-known British mapper was going to make this most amazing map he's ever made in his life. It was going to be monumental, ground changing. And then it was super hyped, super hyped. I was buying into it. I was keeping up with it. And it came out. I got into it. I could see all the spots where he had screenshots. And then that was the only thing in the map that really looked great was his screenshots. Everything else looked like every other map he'd ever done. And I literally went into a little bit of a depression. Like, really, this is the best? Like, have I seen the best? Is there nothing more to ever see again that's better than this? So from that day forward, I stopped paying attention to anything. That way, everything is brand new, fresh. So I have not seen the map. I have no idea where it's being released. I have no idea who's making it. If it shows up on the Mod Hub, I'll do a video on it. If it's released somewhere else, someone's going to have to link me to it, and then I'll look at it. Because I don't do social media. I don't follow anybody. And it's not because I don't like people. I just don't like social media, and I like to keep things fresh.
Gotcha, gotcha. Again, Ken, thank you so much for your question. We got one from Michelle Farms. Michelle asks, do you feel as if the map reviews have become more of a job, or do you enjoy the map reviews?
Yes, to both. I've done over 1,000 videos. We might be close to 1,100 at this point. And very few things are unique and different anymore. So a lot of it's, yep, here's this. This is what that does. But every so often you come across something that's just a step above the rest. And one of those maps was that whatever, that Italian map that I did a video on a couple weeks ago. Now I'm doing a gameplay on it because it's just everything is custom and it's amazing. Everything just, there's not a bad view on the map. So you look for the diamonds in the rough is my goal at this point. But everyone's got different tastes. So someone's this is the best map ever to me might be like, it's average, it's fine. but something that I think is great. Other people are like, no, it's too hilly, it's too small, it's not square enough. Um, the roads are too narrow. It's like, okay, that's fine, right? Everyone's got their own tastes and things.
Gotcha. Again, Michelle, thank you so much for your question. We've got, let's see, oops. Got another one from Michelle. Says, did your eyes get hurt or was this from birth? I think that's referring to the color blindness.
It's a genetic thing. It affects like 3 to 5% of I think the population. You just have less cones or rods. One of the two's color. One's black, grayscale. You just have less of them. They're less receptive to certain colors.
Okay. Let's see. Again, thank you so much for your question there. We got one last one here from Munchies Plays. Munchies, thank you so much for your question. It says, hey Klein, what's your favorite munchie besides me? LOL.
Oh, I really dig anything gummy. Gummy bears, gummy worms, anything red, like a red Jolly Ranchers, red lightsabers. Snickers really does satisfy. Uh, so when the guy at the chocolate plant accidentally dropped his peanut butter in the chocolate plant, I tell a story about how the clouds parted and this beam came down from God and angels sang because the Reese cup was born. It's God's gift to candy lovers, and everyone should try it. Um, Doritos are good. Chips and salsa. Um, I don't recommend peanut butter and jelly M&Ms. That was not a good purchase today.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I've tried those once before, the PB&J ones, and I maybe took about 2 bites and threw the bag out. I was incredibly disappointed. Let's see. We got one last one from Dust Bunny. She asked, "Where do you see your channel in the next 5 to 10 years?"
I'd love to get to 100K, but current channel growth isn't going to get there. Um, Other than that, we're just keeping it real, and we'll see how things morph um, in the next 5 years.
Excellent. Now, a couple quick shout outs here. Gold Gaming sent out a membership, gifted it. Thank you so much, Gold. Greatly appreciate it. And Rabid Rob has been a member for 1 month. Thank you both so very, very much. Now we're going to move on to our second segment here. It's called Meat and Potatoes, emphasis on potatoes. This is where we're going to get to know you for more of your content and your creator side of the farm sim community. So, first off, I know that this might seem kind of a bare bones basic question, but it's one of those that I've been surprised before. I've done probably about 3 dozen or so of these interviews with random people out there, and thinking that this is, again, a basic question, I've been surprised. So, is there a story behind your username, or is it just a straightforward, farmer plus name?
I'm very unoriginal. So yes, it's very much farmer plus name.
Gotcha. So, like I said, it's one of those where I've been surprised. Like, oh, hey, like we've got Farmer Bob, and it's like, oh, well, actually, it's named after my great grandfather, who's 3 times removed, and all, like, going down the lore and the rabbit hole for any number of YouTubers and content creators out there. So I ask it just to make sure. So earlier you'd made mention about growing up on a farm, and it's one of those where I kind of attest, and I've not really been kind of challenged on this thought process, but I attest that when it comes to the kind of affinity that a lot of us share in regards to Farming Simulator, that there tends to be some kind of connection between whether it's farming or just that kind of lifestyle where either we were born into it, we had some kind of experience in farming, had an affinity towards like tractors and just like them as machines. There's some kind of connection. Would you agree that your connection with where you kind of grew up was something that kind of influenced you kind of naturally gravitating towards Farming Simulator?
It definitely had a pull. Um, like I said, I was doing sim racing at the time. I needed to find something to do between the races, and I stumbled upon some videos of some dudes playing farm sim, and some were like playing role play style, some were just free form doing whatever. And I thought this is an interesting game that has so much dynamics. And there was a creator out there. His name is Bipolar Prophet, and I think he's kind of gone by the wayside more recently. But maybe he's just on different platforms now. But he was doing at the time like super ultra deep into role play, and Farm Sim 17 had just come out. I didn't really realize that at the time, but it was like it kind of touched a little bit home. Um, the idea that he's left home, is working, and this didn't really pertain to real life, but his in the story, his dad got sick and he couldn't keep up with the farm, so he came back to kind of to take that up and help the family and keep the farm going and things. And it was like this touching story of this guy who's learning to farm again as he's learning to farm in Farm Sim 17. Well, at the same time, he's extremely knowledgeable in the game and just halfway plays dumb because he's never breaks character like in his videos. And that kind of drew me in. There was another guy who did videos called Eustace Farmer. Um, and he would do really interesting videos, and that kind of drew me in, and that's where I kind of started. I bought it because of those and started playing it, and then I just kind of enjoyed the idea of just taking a tractor out the field and doing the job. And when the job's done, you got the satisfaction of doing the job done, and you go and do the next job and everything. So that's kind of where it started.
So you've got your two channels. You got your main channel, Farmer Klein, and then you got the FKS Funhouse. On the Farmer Klein, is that you mentioned earlier that's only dedicated to Farm Sim, correct?
It is now. Um, for a very long time, I put everything on that channel. So if you go back and look, there's a role play game, role play series of American Truck Sim. There used to be, I don't think there is anymore. There used to be iRacing content up there a long time ago. There's content probably up there on City Skylines, content on some other games up there. And then in 22, like the algorithm, I felt like views were dropping off faster than they should. And I thought, well, maybe it's because when I do my ATS live streams, only a subset of people watch those compared to the other videos. It seemed like when I did Let's Play videos, the first video would get great views, the second video would get less. 20 videos in, it's a lot less than it was the first 5 videos. Like people are like, oh, new and shiny, I want to watch. The shine wears off and they go on and watch something else. Um, but I don't want to play something for 3 videos and move on. So I just thought, well, let's move all this other stuff to another channel, and that seemed to have a positive impact on views and on YouTube recommending the content. So that's just where we've kept it split off.
So you've been doing this for, quite some time. You started, you mentioned back in like the FS17 days. Um, it's one of those where, because you've been on the YouTube and doing this kind of stuff for so long, you've probably seen a thing or two throughout your whole tenure here. What would you say is one of those things that you never expected to see when you started your channel? And some examples that I give are like the sense of community, any unexpected backlash, things along those lines.
I guess probably maybe the most shocking thing that I really was not expecting was the overall negativity people had to when I started actually giving a map a score in FS22. Um, I like to do things different, and I like to make my things stand out. So when I first started doing map videos, I didn't want to call it a map tour. I didn't want to call it a map review. So I called it a map first impressions, and that was FS17. That was FS19. I wanted to make something different in 22. I'm like, what's nobody does something. Well, nobody actually assigns a score to a map, right? Or if they do, it's based purely on their preferences. And I wanted to rate a map definitively on things that people couldn't argue against. Like, this is a legit thing. It either does or doesn't do it. So therefore it does or doesn't get a point. Um, and I came up with a system that was 5 stars or fraction of stars. And I thought it was a fine system that was based on how well does a map play towards FS22. Because with FS19, we had build your own farm. So prior to that, all the maps were static. If you wanted to change the map, you better have a PC and you better know how to use Giants Editor. But with start of 19, you could delete buildings, you could put buildings down. So I would see from FS17 to FS19 to 22, people would bring maps forward, but they wouldn't change the map. It was just the same dang thing year after year, game version after game version. And it's like, this is fine, but if I wanted to play this map, I'd just fire up the old game. I want something that plays to FS22's benefits. And the negativity was like insane. I'm like, what's up, people? I get that the map that you love, by the map author you love, got a bad score, but you can't argue that I couldn't sell the buildings. It's a fact. If you don't care about it, fine. Then that score factor doesn't matter, but it's a fact. Or I can't sell everything I can grow. I don't know. Who's ever grown a crop and then realized after you've harvested it, there's no way to sell it until some guy named Schultz adds a mod that lets you sell everything. Pretty sure I suggested that to him, but any rate, that's got to be frustrating. So if before you even start playing on a map, maybe you want to know that I can't sell oats. Oats is a new crop, and I wanted to do horses, but I can't sell oats. Well, it might affect your decision to play a map, right? It's not my fault the guy didn't make it so you could sell oats, but I just want to point it out to you. So I didn't want to quit scoring, so I'm like, well, I'll just score throughout 22. 450 some maps later, we move on to 25, and I stopped scoring because people just didn't get it, that you could score something and not rate it because you liked it. There's plenty of maps I rated 2 stars and I played. I only play maps I like. That's a fact. If you can't do things, then it's not going to get a score.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's one of those where it's just, it sounds like you had a kind of more like streamlined approach, like a more what's the right word, like almost methodical. Like you had a procedure that you followed. So if this happened, then demerit. If that happened, demerit. So on and so forth. It sounds like that's how you kind of structured yours. Um, it's one of those where at the end of the day, it boils down to opinions. We all have them, and it's if you disagree, then you disagree. I personally, I can't fault anybody who wants to give an opinion on something that's out there, as long as it's a constructive or a fair assessment. It's not just kind of, oh hey, here's map X, let me just start bashing it for the next 20, 30, 40 minutes kind of thing. But it certainly doesn't sound like that's something that you're doing. It sounds like you're just like, hey, this is the things that I score, this is what I look for, and here it is. If you like it, don't you don't.
Exactly. I watch a lot of tech tubers. That's predominantly the content that I watch. Um, and there's a channel, Gamers Nexus. If you don't watch tech tubers, then you probably don't know the channel. If you do watch tech tubers, you probably know the channel. Yeah, he has videos. It's like, this is our methodology to do this. So before FS22 came out, I did a video like, this is going to be my methodology for scoring maps. That was the first video in that playlist, and people would like, how do you score maps? Well, here's the video that explains it all. I don't need to explain it every single time. I got one video that explains it. You can go watch it. And I watch a guy, Jared's Tech. He does, like, he's the guru for laptop videos, and his videos are extremely methodological. Like, there's a method to it. Every video is the same format. Like, you could jump to the middle and know exactly what he's going to be talking about. And that was my goal. It's like, I want every video as best I can to be in the same order, cover the same things, and be like, this is about where he's going to be doing this, so I can jump to that point. I timestamp things, right? So if you don't care about certain things, you can just skip over that. Because a 40-minute video might have an average watch time of 8 minutes. And that's fine. That's fine.
So again, considering that you've been around since like the FS17 days, quite some time when you consider, a single series, or a single franchise kind of thing. It's one of those where you've had so much time to kind of, learn and grow and be a part of the game itself. Would you consider Farming Simulator to be like your favorite game, like flat out? Or if not, what would be your favorite game?
From hours played, it's pretty obvious that, yeah, if you were just looking at hours played, I would say it would be my favorite. I honestly don't really feel I have favorites of anything. People are like, what's your favorite tractor? I don't know. I just pick something. What's your favorite map? Well, it depends. Like, I always think, well, I like this map, but probably there's going to be a better map come out tomorrow. So if this is my favorite, but then tomorrow I have a different favorite, then it's like, am I cheating on my ex-girlfriend or my current girlfriend type of a thing? Because, oh, look, that's the new hottie that just walked by, type of a thing. So it definitely has the most play hours. Um, I was really into SnowRunner at one point, where like that was like the de facto. If I didn't have anything to do in Farm Sim, I was going to fire up SnowRunner. And I kind of stopped after a year and a half of playing SnowRunner. Roadcraft has kind of got that same feel where it's just you get started and you don't want to stop because you just want to do one more thing and one more thing and things like that. But it's up there with map or with games that I would say if I didn't have anything better to do, then yeah, I could fire it up and enjoy my afternoon.
So, how much of your day consists of making content?
Well, I get home from work at 5:30. Sometimes I got to make dinner, sometimes I don't. If I'm lucky, 2 to 3 hours on a random night is dedicated to farm sim creation. I try to not do a lot of farm sim creation on the weekends anymore, just because I don't want to be burned out of it. And I try to focus on other things. Back in FS 17 and probably early FS 19, my biggest regrets is not playing other games. Like all I would ever do is play farm sim. And there were so many games that came out that it's like, oh, I probably would really have enjoyed that. But I only played farm sim. And that was one of my biggest regrets. So like with 22 and 25, that's not going to be something that's going to happen. I'm going to experience other things and enjoy other things. And we try to do it within the Discord community of, hey, let's go play Wreckfest tonight. And we did for months. Every Friday night, we would wreck each other out with abandon, because my idea was like, just get all your week's frustrations out on each other, and it's all in good fun. And that's my idea of the weekends is to some degree farm sim becomes a second job, so I want the weekends to meet. And I know other folks that are like full-time farm sim creators. After 5 p.m., they don't touch farm sim because they go play something else, or they go do something else, and they get up at 5 in the morning and they start doing their farm sim content. But after their work hours are over, it's all them, and that keeps their sanity.
No, absolutely. So you mentioned how you really don't have too many favorites of pretty much anything. But, with doing, like the map tours, like you mentioned, your first impressions for over the past, several iterations of Farming Sim, has there been anything that kind of stood out to you to be your least favorite map that you've come across?
Did you say least favorite?
Correct.
Dude, like I forget things. Like if it's not memorable, it's gone. Um, I had a guy post a question today on, shoot, I don't even know what map it was, but probably it was a map I did last week. And he was like, can you sell all the buildings on the farm? I was like, I put a comment in. I covered it in the video. I can't honestly remember anything about this map, other than that I definitely did a video on it. Um, Least favorite is left my head like within 10 minutes of recording the map, probably.
Okay, I understand. It's one of those that I operate very similarly. Is that if it's not something that's incredibly memorable, that it's out of my brain pretty quickly as well. But
And I also know that my least favorite may be someone's absolute favorite, right? So I don't go into it trashing it like this thing is awful. Um, there's plenty of maps in back in the day that I would look at and be like, no, if this thing's riddled with errors, I'm not doing a video on this because I can't say anything positive about it. Golden rule, can't say anything positive, keep your mouth shut, right?
it's a good rule to live by. I agree with that. So back when FS25 was being announced, we were getting all the kind of news of, all the various features and things like that were going to be coming out. And it was kind of that slow drip, like every, other week or every week we were starting to like, oh, hey, ground deformation is going to be a thing. Oh, hey, God rays are going to be a thing. Weather events are going to be a thing. Was there anything that came across your radar where you were like, okay, that makes me like really excited for FS25?
Buildable buildings that's turned into a massive disappointment. Um, Buildable, you can build a farm, place buildings. The next logical progression there is I want to be able to build a building and deliver goods and see it go up. I wanted to be able to build a farm from scratch. Like, give me a chainsaw, go out, chop down the trees, build a farmhouse, then build a barn out of logs and build a pig pen out of logs, and eventually I can grow up and maybe build a bigger house out of some other material. And it's just turned into a massive disappointment that only one modder that I know of has done anything with it. And that would be the biggest thing I was most excited about, that reminds me that I need to try not to get excited about things because they end up being disappointments.
Well, see, you kind of jumped ahead on my questions there because the next one was going to be what was the one feature that you were excited about that you soured on? So it sounds like you kind of hit both nails on the head there. So no, I completely agree with you. It was one of those where the ability to build and to kind of create from the ground up, like you were saying, was really enticing. That was one thing that was really like, okay, I'm on board with this. And we kind of got that taste of it back in, the FS22 days when it comes to like Silver Run Forest, being able to kind of build and create, like with the roller coaster. There was the piano shop on the other expansion. What was that one called? I can't remember. Anyways, not important.
Premium. That was
Yeah.
Zilanka.
Zaylong, that, thank you. Yes. So yeah, it was one of those where being able to build up and be, kind of gather your resources, then put them towards something that's going to eventually render out a end result was very enticing. And, yeah, I would definitely say that was something that really kind of disappointed me is, not having kind of a greater utility of that. Um, yeah, I can completely understand you there. So, what's one thing that's not in Farming Simulator that you really wish was?
Orchards. Llamas. I want something else that does wool. Some other critter. Um, Orchards. Like we got placeable olive trees. We had placeable grapes. It doesn't seem to be too far of a mental stretch to be able to draw down a row of trees and make it make fruit, and bring a tree shaker over, or however you want to harvest your fruit, as opposed to just being a lock stock placeable. You plop down and provide water and you get pallets of apples. Um, Nuts would be nice. We've had maps that have provided nuts to some degree, and nuts are a very big thing. Um, Going back to audiobooks, there was an audiobook, I can't recall the name, but it's all about like this nut heist in California. That's like the biggest agricultural based like heist, and it was tied to like gangs or the mafia or something, where they stole like semi truckloads of almonds, and apparently that was big money. Um, but it also talked all about like the nut industry in California and things, and it was very intriguing to listen to. But it'd be nice to see that.
I gotcha. Yeah, and for all those modders that are out there in the chat there, hope you're taking some notes. Just kidding, just kidding. So, what kind of maps do you prefer to play on? Do you prefer to play on a more wide open, kind of American style map, or do you prefer to play on something that's a little bit more tight, compact, almost like a UK style?
I like smaller, more manageable fields. Back in the day when I had endless amounts of time, and when I toyed with course play a lot, the fact that it might take you 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 hours to harvest something was a little less of a problem. But if you can only put 2 3 hours a day into farm sim, and it takes you 5 days to harvest something, it doesn't really feel like you're getting very far. So smaller maps with I like to play a little more realistic. than unrealistic, but I'm not hardcore realistic. So I like to do things where I can feel like I can get something accomplished in a couple hours. And I'm really sweet on doing things manually, which makes maps like Hofbergman, um, like the bee's knees for me. Like if I were to pick a favorite map, it would be Hofbergman, hands down. Every farm sim from 17 to 25 has a whole new Hofbergman, and they're all great.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one off the top of my head, but I'll definitely have to check it out. So,
I know a guy, he's got a series on it.
oh yeah,
He's got a how-to series on it. Yeah, I know
nice.
a guy.
Know
You
a
might
guy who
want to
knows a
check him
guy.
out. Yeah, yeah.
So, what style of farming do you prefer? Do you prefer to do like arable, forestry, grass care? What's your kind of specialty that you prefer?
Dude, I'm so done forestry. I don't ever want to cut another tree down in my life. Um, I just like contemporary American farming. Um, I was thinking about maybe talking about this last night on the live stream, that if I wasn't talking about it last night, I was thinking about it at some point, that we'd probably end up with the select few crops. Most people probably only ever do select few sets of things. I got one guy on my channel, he's like, all I ever did in 19 was corn and wheat on every map. Or I got a guy who's like, all I ever do is plant potatoes. Okay, that keeps you happy. That's fine with me. But yeah, I'll never do sugarcane again until FS 28 or whatever comes out. I'll never do poplar again because it just takes so long. Um, but at the end of the day, I get stuck in my wheat, barley, oats, soybeans, corn, and everything else that's in the game. I just kind of forget about.
Do you find that you sometimes have to like push yourself to kind of break out of the things that you like and force yourself into those other things in regards to like your content and stuff?
I try to keep things fresh as best I can. Um, like at some point I need to do a lot of rice just because I played with rice a little bit and then didn't get back to it. I was going to do rice on the last map I did, but then I realized that the fields I wanted to do rice on weren't really flat. Um, and then I added the mod to let you plant rice without making it a rice field, and then I forgot about going back and ever doing it again because I got tied up with other things. So it's you get in a rut, and I want to not get in a rut. I deliberately try to use different machinery all the time, as opposed to this is the harvester I use every game. Um, I like to try to use different stuff just for the sake of doing different stuff. But I think we all just definitely get into the rut of doing it the way we like to do it or doing the way we're comfortable with doing it. But like last night, I used a round baler on the Italian map that's super hilly. Like in general, like farm sim players aren't going to round bale on super hilly maps because bales will roll all over the place. So that was part of a challenge. Like let's bale these fields and let's see if we can make it so that we don't have all the bales rolling away. So it's when the baler is about to unload, we have to reposition our baler so it's going across the slope and unload it, and hopefully we lined it up right and it doesn't roll off the hill. And I think we're successful there. Next time I bale, I probably use a square baler. Yeah, check, achieve that goal.
So, with your content, do you tend to utilize a contract system at all?
No, um, honestly, I tend to forget about it. I very much stopped using Courseplay because it frustrated me when it didn't work right. And I'm like, if I start getting frustrated, then I got to do something else because, right, if you're not enjoying it, you're not playing it right. So I very much just do things manually, typically. Rarely will I hire someone to do something for me unless like I literally don't have enough time or I feel people have seen me do this plenty of times. I'm just going to hire a helper. But I don't go out and do other contracts much because of the fields I'd have occupy a lot of my time.
I gotcha. And then, as a content creator, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to start in this field?
Do what you enjoy. Don't chase the views. If you build it, they'll come, type of a thing. If you're having fun, people who enjoy like-minded gameplay will show up and they will hang out with you because they like how you're playing. If you try to emulate someone who's super popular, it probably isn't going to work out well for you because maybe you're not as energetic as they are. Um, and you just can't keep pretending to be something you're not. So do what you want to do and hope that you can find a little niche in this massive collection of creators. We were talking before we started that post COVID, it's been an explosion of people who are making content on YouTube. And it's hard to find people because there's so many people out there and it's hard maybe for people to grow and slow going. Um, I'm well aware of slow growing. All of my views over the 9 years or subs over the 9 years is like slow, methodical, organic growth. I'm not good at social media stuff, so there's no media blitz with those 50 some thousand subs. They're hard earned 50 some thousand subs. So just find what you like that you can keep up with and get on it.
Absolutely. So, what has been one of the most memorable moments of your content creation career so far?
I don't know. Um, Meeting people's fun, right? Going to PAX East and representing Giants at the booth is pretty memorable. Being that person when Giants representatives are like, you got someone who's interested in the game, they're like, hey, this guy's he's Farmer Klein, he makes content. Like he'll show you how to use the game, right? And it's that's great when the company's like, this guy's a good representative of our content and our game, so he can show you how to play it and bring you up to speed and everything. And you hang out with folks from Giants, you hang out with like-minded people who are interested in the game and get to meet them. So that's probably it.
Excellent. And then, last question I have for this segment is if you had the ability to make a map of someplace in real life, let's say you had all the prerequisite skills, you had like all the coding, all the knowledge of Giants Editor, all of it, where would that map be based off of and why?
I would be my home farm and the region around it. In fact, I started doing it in Farm Sim 17. Quickly realized that I didn't have the artistic skill set to take something from a realistic dim terrain to trees and foliage and other things that make it like look good. So it would be my home area, and it would be it would be a map that was kind of like, well, there really isn't a shop anywhere as close by, so we're just gonna have to plop one at the corner, and we'll have to plop a sell point at the corner, and it's going to be mostly trees and farmland, rolling hills, and and uh and houses and stuff. But that's where it would be.
Excellent, excellent. Well, like I said, that is the last question I have for this segment. So let's go ahead and set our sights back onto the chat here really fast. Let's see. We got not so much a question, but a statement. Again, Dust Bunny, thank you so much for gathering these. From Gold Gaming, he says, I missed the score. Referring to your scores for your map tours.
Yep, yep, it's done. It was a failed experiment as far as I'm concerned, but I appreciate it. There were some people that got it, and there was plenty of people that didn't get it, and that was frustrating every week.
Let's see. And then oh, we got some more we got Dust Bunny saying that she agrees, she liked the score as well. Also had a very unique way of doing the tours. Really enjoyed it. And then we got one from, let's see. Oh, again, more of a statement, not so much a question. From Gold Gaming, says that he agrees that he loves the Hoff gameplays.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I think that map is underrepresented outside of the German language creators. It's a German map made by a German content creator that who, quite frankly, I think is probably one of the most innovative modders and mappers that Farm Sim has ever had. So oftentimes you've used things of his and you have no clue. Lots of maps in Farm Sim 19 that had calves. If you look close, all the calves had ear tags that said Hoff Bergman on them. So any calf based in Farm Sim 19 was pretty much his that was pulled out and put into those maps. In Farm Sim 19 on Hoff Bergman, you collected bull juice through various means, and you supplied that in a cryo container to a vet who would do his thing with a big glove. And that's how you got little calves. And he had it set up to where you could walk the little calves around. They were like little vehicles that you would enter, and you'd walk the calf around into a calving area where it would grow into an adult. Before we had animals that grew into adulthood in the game, um, he had a point where you would go around and collect trash and recycle trash as a way of getting supplemental income back in Farm Sim 17. So definitely something I think is underrepresented.
Wow, that definitely sounds really cool. So I do have one more question here, and it's from Ghost Boy. Ghost Boy, thank you so much for your question. It says, what's the best thing that has happened to you in your farm sim journey so far, and what are you looking forward to happening for you in the future?
I would say probably the best thing would be being invited to Wisconsin to play Farm Sim 25 as one of the first people ever to play the game at the Case IH factory in Racine, something Wisconsin starts with R. Um, that was a great day and a half, 2-day experience. Last summer, last autumn.
Wow, that's really cool. Absolutely really cool. All right. Well, like I said, I think that is every question I had. Before we start wrapping things up, I want to give again another shout out to all those who put out memberships. Gold Gaming, we got Rabbit Rob, who's been a member for a month, and recently joined Dust Bunny. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Greatly appreciate it. And now we're going to go ahead and head into our third and final segment. It's called That's a Silage Wrap. This is where we're going to start closing things out. So, first off, do you have any future plans or projects that you're going to be working on?
We're going to Sim Gaming Expo in September 5th through 7th. Everything Sim Gaming is going to be there. It's the inaugural event. Hopefully, it gets off the ground and becomes kind of a PAX for simulation based gaming. I can't commit the Giants will be there because they haven't publicly stated that they'll be there. But if we sit back and we think about a simulation game that they make called Farm Sim, that fits there. If we think about their offices, which are based in Chicago, the location is there. And if we think about a certain game that they're the publisher for that's coming out in late November, that is Project Motor Racing, that's very much sim based. If you are going to not go to a expo about sim gaming, that would be pretty bad idea, I think. So while they haven't publicly stated they're going to be there, they probably are going to be there. So I'm going. I'm excited to go because, like I said, my roots are in iRacing. My roots are in sim racing. I haven't done it for a while, but I'm excited to go there and experience it. So that's coming up. There's no grand projects for Farm Sim other than excited to hopefully see that Pack 3 is going to be Mercedes something. It's been heavily hinted at. Hopefully that'll eventually show up. Excited to see what Highlands Fishing looks like. A little disappointed that Highlands Fishing looks like it's production fishing and not procedural fishing. Like imagine if forestry was you walk into a forest and you collect logs that spawn because you supplied diesel at the log place, and that was your forestry. Boring. And that's kind of what you have with your fish greenhouse, where you provide food and you get pallets of fish as opposed to pallets of vegetables. And you take the fish greenhouse vegetables to a boat and then plop them on a thing. And then the fish greenhouse that's floating in the water gives you adult fish that you load back up on a boat and sell. But they claim you can use rod and reel and fish from the pier. So hopefully there will be some level of fishing mechanic. We had fishing in Hofbergman and Farm Sim 22. You got in a boat, you drove out in the lake, and you plopped out a rod and reel, and over time, fish collected in your boat. And then you could take those fish and put them in a smoker and smoke fish. We have fishing in Farm Sim 25 in Hofbergman. Very similar, but it's not on a lake. So it feels like a cop out to production fish. But we haven't seen it yet. So maybe there's more to it.
I gotcha. Awesome. So, can you remind us where we can find you at?
Oh, you can find me at all the YouTubes. At Farmer Klein, at FKS_Funhouse for the weekend adventures. Right now, we're doing Roadcraft on Friday nights. Me, Schultz, and Jacer, and Tuki. Those are 3 regulars over on the Discord, my Discord, and regular viewers of the content. We're just having fun doing Roadcraft and multiplayer. We're probably about halfway through. Saturday night, Tuki and I and some other folks from the Discord. Right now, we're doing some Baldur's Gate 3 play in tactician mode. We're almost done that. Every Sunday night, we do Sunday Night Convoy in American Truck Sim, where we drive like bat out of hell. How fast can we deliver loads and try not to wreck too much? But it's all about having fun. And then, of course, on the main channel, I try to do live streams on Monday and Wednesday, barring a map video drop. Because if Giants drops a map, that's my priority, and I got to focus on that. Honestly, some days I get jealous of just regular creators that can make their schedule and their life isn't dictated by what somebody else does. And living here on the East Coast, I don't know what I'm doing tonight until 11 or 12 o'clock. And then if I remember to look at the Mod Hub, then I look and I see, oh, great, 3 maps dropped. That's going to be fun. And now any plans I had for the night's over. Or some days, oh, look, no maps dropped. That's nice. I can actually do what I want tonight. So those days actually are more enjoyable than great. Let's look. Look at the PDA. Does that look like a small map? That might only take 35, 40 minutes, right? Let's see. So yeah. That's where you can find me. I got a Discord. If it's not posted in my abouts on the main channel, just ask and I will put it in a comment, and it's open to everybody. It's got my name on the door, but really it's a community Discord. Everyone just hangs out and has fun. Like, there are no moderators because we don't need moderators. Everyone behaves himself.
So it sounds eerily similar, the description you gave in regards to, being a victim of the Mod Hub. Not a victim, that's probably too harsh, but being being at the whims of it and having your night dictated as to how you're going to create your content. I completely understand and sympathize with what you're saying there. But I want to thank you so very much for coming out and doing the interview here tonight. I had an absolute blast here tonight, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you for the invite and everything. It's always a great opportunity to reach out and be a part of someone else's channel. And I hit that subscribe button and try to keep up with some things from time to time. I think you've got some interesting things going on. You're, like I said, carving your own little niche in doing this little talk show, and um, your Sunday night mod show, which was an interesting watch. I didn't really know what it was when I just saw the thumbnail, so I'm like, oh, he's doing gameplay. Let me click on that and just hang out and kind of learn a little bit about him before we do this video. And it was you going through the mod hub. Oh, what's this? And everything. It was like, this is like, he's like being analytical about all the mods, but not negatively. Like, do you really want this mod? It's more expensive than the base game version. It's the same width. It doesn't really do anything extra special, right? So let's go on to the next one. Or the other guy seems like he's got some like mathematical thing going on. Like, well, let's go back and check this up and look this out. And it's like, you dudes are way more serious than I am. I just randomly pick something and play with it.
For sure, for sure. We try our hardest, and the same thing here. I try my hardest. But again, I want to thank you very much for coming out here tonight, and I want to thank everybody out there in the audience who came out, who participated in their questions. Greatly appreciate every single one of you. And this is the time where I turn to the audience and say, if you enjoyed this kind of content where we get to talk to other creators here within the farming simulator space, and you want to see your favorite creator out there, let me know who they are. As Farmer Klein, so aptly, mentioned earlier, there's a load of us out there, and unfortunately, I can't know everybody who is out there. So if you have a favorite out there, or if you're a creator, whether you're a mod maker, map maker, content creator, even a farmer, like if you have some kind of connection to farming simulator whatsoever, feel free to either drop me a line in any of my social medias, Instagram, Facebook, X, Discord, wherever, or reach out to me directly. And the only requirement I have is you have to be above the age of 18. So if you're over the age of 18 and you want to be on the show, reach out to me directly. I would love to have anybody and everybody on the show. and try and get as many voices out there as possible. Again, thank you all so very much for stopping by tonight. I hope everybody has a fantastic day. And if you enjoyed this, please show us by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things the algorithms enjoy you doing. It shows you're engaged with this channel and enjoying the content. And that being said, have a fantastic day, everyone. All right, Farmer Klein, hang on until after the outro, and I will catch you on the other side.
Okay. Happy farming.
Take care, everyone.
This is Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Let's roll. Out here in the country, where the roads run wide, there's a world behind the pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods, to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull